Good morning, everyone. My name is Amber Gunston. I'm the CEO of Boston Technology Council. We are very pleased to have you all join us today and very thankful to our host and our sponsor, Intry. They have been around Austin for a couple of years now, and they were founded here as well. And they specialize in helping really great, highly qualified candidates get through all of the noise that a lot of people have gotten stuck in, myself included, throughout the years. And so today we're very excited to have the founder and CEO of Intry, Jennifer Sethre, on the call. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to her in just one moment. We are taking questions on Slido that I'll be asking at the end of this call. Today, the code for Slido is 64138. Again, that is 64138. And we'll be asking your questions. I know a lot of people are concerned about, what's going on in the job market. And we're very pleased today to have two experts who know all about that. So Jennifer, very happy to see you. And I'll let you introduce your team.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for everyone who is tuning into this, and Amber and Jessica and your entire team for giving us the opportunity to reach out to people and sort of start this sort of kind of unusual conversation that we're all having right now. So I also want to introduce Tegan Gainan, who is in charge of all of our marketing and has been just a huge, I think, part of our success and the changes that we've had to make in the last, 30 days and reaching out to people. And, we thought we were going to turn right, and then we ended up turning left, and, has really helped, I think, elevate us in this time. And then our CTO, Aquiles is also on the call. And I know he's just having a little connectivity issues. He just shot me a text, and I'm like, don't worry, it's all good. Everyone is in the same boat with this. So, there's Aquiles. So Aquiles is our chief technology officer, and has done a great job of sort of bringing the vision of Intry to life so that we can bring it to everybody else. And the name of our company is called Intry, and really Intry Careers. And what we do is we have created an adaptive hybrid resume that allows candidates to break through the applicant tracking systems so that their resume actually gets in front of the people that they need to see it. And we have a whole culture and career assessment that people take and helps people sort of self-actualize the kind of best environment that they should be working in and what kind of company they want to work for, and really what sort of cultural expectations do they have about themselves that maybe they may not recognize. And our website is www.intry.careers, and you can go there, take a look at us, and feel free to ask any questions. I think, though, we don't really want to make this an infomercial for Intry. I think our goal is, like all of you, we've been inundated with bad news every day in the news cycle. Something is going wrong. COVID-19 absolutely has changed all of our daily lives, how we do business, the shelter in place, how do our kids go to school, how do you work from home and run your company, how do you keep your company going, how do you deal with the sales and marketing aspect of things, how do you keep people motivated. And as a group, that's something that we've spent a lot of time thinking about. And one of the things that, Tegan and Aquiles and I want to make sure that everybody knows about Intry and what we believe, not just as Intry, but I think as humans, is that it's going to be okay. All of us are going to be okay. This is just the new normal for right now. And I think that's, Amber asked me when we were prepping for this call, what were a couple things that we did to really reach out to our users, and even people who reached out to Tegan or Aquiles or me via Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. And I guess I'll let Tegan talk about the two solutions that we came up with, and how that's sort of helped bridge the gap with, I think, how scared people are in the marketplace, and for us, instead of going out and really trying to get new customers, which we will, but I think it's more about how do we help the people that are currently our subscribers and our strategic partners sort of bridge the gap. So Tegan, I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So per what Jennifer has been saying, we wanted to find a way to be able to help everyone during this time without trying to necessarily capitalize on the situation. So the two main things we decided to do for our customers and for those out there who are looking for a job who may or may not be aware of Intry already, was to, for one, offer webinars, something we weren't doing already, free webinars, and pretty often, several times a week, twice a day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then once on Saturdays for those of us that still, thankfully or fortunately, still do have plenty of work to do during the weekdays, but are looking for new employment and are unavailable during the weekdays. So those are at 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Central Time on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then at 9 a.m. Central Time on Saturdays. And during these webinars, we mainly, for one, we do our best to just answer any questions any job seekers have. Again, whether they're using Intry already, whether we're helping them already, or whether they're just, they just need some questions answered. Whether they're scared, whether they're confused about how to improve their resume, whether they have nowhere to start. First and foremost, we're just hosting these webinars to be able to help people out and to be able to answer. And it's free access for anybody, simply just the click of a link. And then, of course, along with answering questions, we also go through the process of how to use Intry, how to use the functionality and the service of Intry for job seekers to be able to not only help find them employment opportunities, but to improve their resume. There's a lot of details that a lot of job seekers aren't aware of, and employers aren't aware of, about resume optimization and about how the hiring process works and the job search process works. And our mission and our goal is mainly to be able to help them have a better understanding of it, to improve their experience in the job search process. Because as we all know, it's a job in its own just to find a new job. And then the second main thing we're doing is offering free. Well, this kind of goes hand in hand with the webinar, but offering free one-on-one customer support calls. This is, again, free for anybody, and very similar to the webinar, but more of a one-on-one experience for users and for job seekers, even not using Intry and not aware of us already, to be able to get a little more personal and a little more direct with them. I personally am surprised to see and experience how open and how transparent people are being. And although it's probably therapeutic for both of us, I expected more to help them more directly with improving their resumes. And it's much more of us, just kind of venting and collaborating together on how to better these strange times and how to better their experience during these times, to help them find new employment if they need it, or like I said, just simply find a new opportunity, whether they need it. Go ahead, Jennifer.
No, I was just, you just made me think of something. So Aquiles, so people can go to our FAQ and they scroll down and they can click on the Candly link and schedule the one-on-one times with any one of our team. But Aquiles was on a call last week with a woman. Her name is Carol. I'm not going to say any more than that. But he texted me and he goes, you really got to get on this call. So Aquiles, you just want to give just a super quick, what made you think that I needed to get on that call? Oh, we can't hear you.
Hi, everybody. So sorry, I was in mute. So yeah, last week I was in a call in a one-on-one with Carol, yes, and in the middle of the conversation, I'm talking to her, and I realized that she has been in the looking for a job for a long time, and I realized that she needs to be reinventing herself, right? And I said, you know what? I think the expert on that is Jennifer. Let me give Jennifer a call and let's ask her to join the meeting and listen to you and hear what you're saying and help you reinventing yourself, and be able to get calls or whatever she thinks fit for what you are saying. And Jennifer joined. I asked Jennifer join.
And well, so I listened to her talk for a little while, and then I was like, Carol, I'm like, you don't need Intry. I mean, like, I would love for you to join Intry, but you don't need Intry. What you really want to do is start your own company, and you want to be an entrepreneur, and you want permission from someone to say that you should do that. And essentially, that's what I said. That's the very condensed version. But what happened as a result of that is that, Carol ended up referring a bunch of people that she knew who were looking for jobs to Intry. And so, yes, it's important for us to get users and subscribers because that's the core part of our business. But what's happened from all the changes is as a company, we've had to really relook at how we're doing things and how are we going to market. And, we don't want to market based on fear, and we don't want to take advantage of again, people's fears and their trepidation, and how are they going to pay their rent? How are they going to pay their insurance? How are they going to do this? And some amazing things have come out of this. We ended up doing with a strategic partnership with a nonprofit, which I can't say right now because they're going to do a shout out when we finally get to that point where we can do it. But what's happened is other people, leaders, have reached out and they said, hey, there's a staffing firm that we think you would be a great fit for. That wasn't really on our roadmap going, in the next 90 to 120 days. Always thought it could be a fit, but wasn't something we were like, yes, we're going to do that right now. And actually, as it turns out, the interface, the API that we built for this nonprofit works really great. And in white labeling, our services for somebody else. And so that was like, that is a really cool opportunity and something that we weren't anticipating. And the networking and the virtual meetings that we've been having and the people that have reached out to us to say, hey, I had an idea for your company. Here it is. Or, there were a couple times I ended up posting videos on LinkedIn, and I've got to be honest with you. I give so much credit to the people who do this on Instagram, and they make these videos every day. It's really hard. There's nobody here helping with hair and makeup, which y'all can probably tell, so don't hold any of that against me. But, it was amazing when I did that, the feedback that I got, and I didn't do it necessarily because I said, I want to get, users to Intry, but I had so many people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, and there's no way I could answer every single one of them and move the business forward and look at what we need to do and how we, keep our team in place and keep the company healthy. So I posted these videos on LinkedIn, and they got some huge lift, which was hugely unexpected. And the positive comments that we got from it. And I think as those of us who are business leaders, one of the things that's become so apparent to me is that we have to be calm in this state of uneasiness. People are scared about paying their rent. They're scared about how do they get groceries. Are their kids going to go back to school? Are they going to lose their jobs? Are they going to lose their jobs because their kids or their cats walk across their keyboard and send an unintended email, which I'm not going to lie, I live at a zoo. That has happened to me on more than one occasion. And it's going to be okay. Everybody on this call, we're going to be okay. And I think that's the message, that it's so important to let everybody know, yeah, there's going to be some pain right now. But at the end of the day, if we all do what we need to do and we reach out and we support each other, I mean, I can't tell you the number of people, and Amber, who is the CEO of ATC, said, hey, this could be an opportunity for your company. And I was like, hey, you've been there for me when I first started Intry, and when we got to Austin, I would do whatever I can to help you. And different people who, Linda Gainan and Krista Ensfield and Marianne Gunn and all of these people have lifted us up and filled me up as a CEO and a founder in this space that, I feel pretty good about where we're at. And I've got this amazing team that, I can't say enough about Tegan and Aquiles and what they do, and how Tegan looks at the analytics of everything we're doing every single day, the different advertising, the digital media that we're doing, what's working, what isn't working, reaching out to his peers to say, hey, I have this idea. Or Aquiles from the technical perspective saying, we weren't going to do this thing in our roadmap because we weren't quite ready for it, but I think working with the developers, we can get this done. And just, man, they did it at breakneck speed. And that's like how you don't just survive as a company, but you thrive. And personal story, which maybe is TMI, maybe I've been quarantined too long, but this summer I ended up getting really sick. We don't need to go into the details because nobody needs to know, but I was pretty much out of the loop for 2 months. And these guys and the rest of the team made everything move forward. We didn't miss a beat. And that says a lot about who they are as leaders in their jobs, but how we communicate as a team. And I think if there's anything that I can share during this time is that, lean on your team, give them the space to do some of the things that they do best, and lead by example, right? It's okay to show a little bit of fear every now and then, but people are going to feed off of your strength and your resilience. And I think those are some really important lessons that we've learned as a company, and listening to our users and some of our strategic partners. And I think building a community is critical for how we move things forward. And I'm not just saying this because, Amber is the CEO of that, but she and her team, Jessica and Beth, and I'm sorry I can't give shout outs to everybody, but they've done a great job of leveraging resources and bringing all of us together to share information and to share ideas and to share our successes or our failures. And I think that is something that I think is unique to Austin that I haven't seen happening in other communities. So thank you to all of you for doing that. So I'm going to pause. And Amber, do you want any questions?
Yeah, we've got some questions in here. So, and I think we've got some job searchers from the questions, and it looks like we've also got some companies here. So the first one is from a user that is asking, "What if I'm just out of boot camp and up against senior people? Is there anything that I don't know if it's a he or she? So, is there anything this person can do to stand out?"
There are so many things, but I don't want this to be the Jennifer show. So Tegan, Aquiles, which one of y'all want to take that one?
I'm happy to. Do you mind repeating the question, Amber?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what if I'm just out of a boot camp and up against senior people? Is there anything I can do to stand out?
Clarify. Do you mind? Do you have communication with the user?
Nope, it's on Slido. My guess is it's probably like a galvanized type boot camp or a Flatiron type boot camp where they're learning, they're just getting into tech. So probably entry level, a little bit more than that.
Right. And they're wanting to know how to stand out against senior level competitors. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, even senior level people are probably wanting entry level jobs right now.
True. Very true. So several things that I can think of based on the experience of some of our other users who have gone through similar things. For one, what I tell anybody and everybody, for one, what you have experienced is, even if it is just the boot camp alone, right? To be able to address and state the success stories, especially in a quantifiable manner, is one of the most effective ways to stand out, at least in writing, i.e. on your resume, but also once you do capture that job interview and you have the chance to verbally communicate with that hiring manager or that employer, whoever it is. But yeah, going back to that, just finding success stories from that boot camp, what you succeeded in, or maybe what you accomplished that maybe others didn't, or like I said, a quantified way that might show in numbers how you performed during that boot camp, if that's all you have for sake of experience, to be able to stand out against others that are maybe at a more senior level. I'd say that's first and foremost. And secondly, something that actually a lot of times works against the senior levels is too much information. If you can be clear and concise and very direct to the point with your job history or with your experience and your success stories, that's super effective, not only for the applicant tracking systems, but for the employers. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot that's getting filtered out. A lot of resumes, a lot of job applications that are getting filtered out before their eyes see it, but they're still seeing a lot. They see it all day, every day. They're going to be seeing resumes or job applications from many different positions. So the more direct and to the point you can get, and in your favor, the more concise you can be, the more likely they're going to capture some detail on your job experience that may or may not stand out compared to other senior level candidates or applicants.
So Aquiles, I can see you're bursting. What were you going to say? You're on mute.
I was gonna add one more thing, about this, right? Also, make sure that you read that job offer correctly and well, and make sure that you, from that, requirements in the job, in the job description, you articulate that in your resume in a concise way. Typical error is a very common. People see that they need something and they need this skill, and they say, "Oh, I have done that." But if you don't say that in your resume, people is not gonna know that you have that skill. So it's important that you articulate your skills, and you articulate, as you are doing your experiences, even that they are short experiences, how you are, qualified to do the requirements of the job.
And one thing I think that it's so critical. Each job that you apply to, you have to customize. Sorry, I talk with my hands. You have to customize that resume for that specific job that you're applying to. And for Intry, one of the tools that we created is job to resume. So that allows you to copy and paste any job description from any job board. Anywhere. You put it into your profile, and it customizes your resume for that specific job. And so we have this hybrid adaptive resume, right? And again, we spent 2 years reverse engineering over 100 applicant tracking systems before we, did a launch, like 10, 11 months ago, right? Kind of a soft launch. And we did the job to resume tool because the customization is so critical. So it doesn't matter if you're going for an entry level position or if you're going for a senior level position, is to make sure that it's customized. Also, for the love of God, do not hit the one-click apply. They are not your friend.
They're the worst.
Yeah.
And here's what people don't know, and frankly, it's a crime. And it's a huge issue, and it really irritates me. If you do it too often, you will get blacklisted. If you hit, let's just say 50 one-click applies, and you don't have, say, 80 to 85% of the qualifications for that job, they'll just be like, talk to the hand. And then you have to go back, and things to get around that are, change up the header of your resume. If your name is Jennifer, maybe refer to yourself as Jen, put your middle initial in. change your email address, use a different resume. I mean, and no offense to the applicant tracking system companies out there, but it's sort of in hiring prevention, honestly. And that's the thing that really is why the reason we started Intry, right, was to give candidates a voice and to get through these applicant tracking systems where a lot of resumes go to die. But to the specific coder question is, people want to know, you've got to be your own advocate to the senior level people. What are the things that you are the most proud of, the things that you accomplished, leadership roles that you've had? Just because you just came out of boot camp and doesn't mean you don't have any experience. Of course you do. You just came out of boot camp. You built something. There's no way you can graduate unless you can show that you built a successful software. That's a win.
If you don't mind, just real quick, I'd like to elaborate. Sorry, Amber, just real quick. Going back to what Jennifer and both Aquiles and Jennifer are saying regarding not only matching the job description, but also unique resumes for every job application. I cannot emphasize enough, and maybe it's just because Jennifer and Aquiles and I are in the industry and we see it every day. We think this is the norm, but I speak to so many people who have no idea that they should be creating a unique resume for every single job they apply to. And it is so crucial, so very important that not only you create one unique resume for each job application, but that unique resume matches the job description of that job application for every single job you apply to.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sorry, we're done now.
And as for the one click using the bots and everything, I actually had a CEO years ago that I knew through the Austin Chamber who had written a sales leader job description based on what he knew about me. A couple of years after I left the chamber, I was looking for another job. I applied for that job on a description that was written about me, and I got booted out of their system. So don't go based on those bots. Those bots only work as good as the person who built them. The next question that I have is somebody who's on furlough. They're wondering if they should start to do a job search just in case they don't get to go back.
100%.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. There's no question.
Now, let me ask a question, because let's say somebody starts a job search, they get down the pipe with a company, and the company that they were working for that they might want to go back to, like, says, hey, we're ready for you to come back. I mean, does that potentially burn a bridge with a future employer?
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, who's responsible to pay your mortgage or your rent or your health care, right? No one's going to save you but you. That's just reality. That's fact. And I think any company leader, nobody wants to do a RIF. Nobody wants to do a reduction in force. It's the hardest thing as a leader that you have to do. And sometimes you have to do it for the survival of your company. It's such a tough call. And, we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe this is like TMI, but when we built Intry, we anticipated that it would take people 3 months to get a job using our software. Pre-COVID-19, it was taking 45 days. So that's the good news. Good news for the person who's looking for a job, bad news for our financial model, right? But I think post-COVID-19, what we're in right now, it's probably going to take a little bit longer, and there's probably going to be more competition. The market has shifted, where before, I think people who were able to get through the applicant tracking systems, which, by the way, only 25% of all resumes get through an ATS system. That is a verifiable fact, sad but true. And those people who had a network and could get through the system, were really lucky, and they could kind of pick and choose the kind of jobs that they want. I think right now what we're going to be faced with is you're going to have more competition for every job opening that is out there. And so the things that set you apart using a system like Intry, gives you a strategic advantage that I think you wouldn't have. But to the original question, you've got to look out for yourself, because we don't know what we don't know. I mean, I think in January, none of us would have predicted that we would be sheltering in place in Austin, Texas. Yeah. And we are.
So the next question this person says their company's already done a round of layoffs, that they say that this employee is safe, but should they start getting their resume out?
I mean, here's the thing about the job market, and I think it was the same way 30 years ago that it is today. It's easier to get a job when you have a job. I mean, the systems and recruiting companies, not all recruiting companies, but a vast majority of them are set up against an active job seeker. And passive job seekers have more advantages because they're not really looking, right? And so the mindset has been, I want the person who already has a job because maybe there's something wrong with the person that doesn't have a job. And I've been in both sides of that equation, right? And so I think it is, if you are going to look for a job because you're worried that you could be, it's probably better to get ahead of the curve than be behind it. But you know, like, it's important to know what you want in a company, right? And sometimes you've got to take a job because you need that job and do it. Do it. If you got to have that health insurance, you know, you don't want to make enemies with the companies that you're looking for right now. But I think people are going to have a lot more compassion and understanding where we are as a country, and that people have to make difficult choices. And I think, you know, we're going to see more humanity in people, especially when companies are looking to hire, because every person I know, regardless of the industry, has been touched by this. It's why we're giving away free consulting advice. It's why, I mean, you know, we work a lot of hours every day because we were like, how can we help? Well, I mean, like, what can we do? And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. But I would, if it were me, I would try to get ahead of it, but I would only apply to those companies that you think you're going to be a good fit for, and where you think you can be a positive force, and you're gonna identify and integrate with sort of that company's culture as much as you can determine that.
Yeah. So this next question looks like it's coming from an employer, and I'm gonna expand on this a little bit because I think I might know what they're talking about. So they've had to make some changes in their company, which I'm guessing means that they've done some layoffs or they've done some furloughs. They know that they'll have to hire again. They want to know how they go about this and not catch flack. And I'm guessing the flack is there are a lot of popular bloggers in the tech industry right now who are doing gotcha stuff on companies. And I've seen this happen to ATC companies. I've seen this happen to non-ATC companies from every industry. Yeah. I'm a little frustrated with it because it's not like these people are making these decisions and going, hey, I'm going to do this today because I've got nothing better to do. So if you're an employer and you had to do a layoff because of this, because like you said, you're trying to save the company, how do you go about, once you know you need to start hiring again, how do you kind of avoid getting that gotcha thing again?
Well, I have two specific examples. So we had a couple comments on our Facebook page, and normally I let Tegan handle those because he does a brilliant way of communicating it without like lighting anybody up, right? But I read this one comment and I was like, I'm pissed, right? Like, and Aquiles went in and he looked at the log rocket, the user story, because we use that so we can go in and see use cases where we can improve our software, right? Which has helped us a lot. This particular user went in, you know, did this assessment that we have, built 20 resumes, then decided they wanted to cancel, they wanted a refund, and then lit us up. And I was like, okay, I'm coming after you. Like, no. That is a hard no. You don't get to do that. You know, there's a balance between what's appropriate and what isn't appropriate. And I think to the people who are doing the blogging and lighting people up, there is absolutely nothing wrong with talking to that person and saying, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you. I'd like to talk about your experience. Because right now, what we all need to do as a collective community is show our humanity. right? I think for the business person that has to go through this, in my previous life, I think having a town hall meeting with everybody in the company that can call in or log in or Zoom or use Starleaf like you're using right now and say, listen, these are some challenges that we're facing as a company, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions. This isn't anything that we want to do, but we need to let you know that it could happen, and here's how it might roll out. And I think giving people a heads up, I think if you have the financial wherewithal at a company to do some sort of severance, or, connect them with, companies who do work with people who are doing RIFs. I mean, and again, this isn't a plug for Intry. This is something that came to us the other day from a person that we know and said, hey, can you help this company? They're going to do a layoff. Can you put your stuff on the front end of their software? And I was like, yeah. And Aquiles, I'm like, how long will that take? And Aquiles was like, it'll take like 3 days. I was like, yay, Aquiles. I'm sure he's, like, oh my God, Jennifer, shut up. But I think engaging with that and being transparent and letting people know that you're human and it's a really tough call, I have found personally is the best way to do it. And you've got to do what you need to do as a leader for your company to survive. Because the only way that our economy is going to come back is if the companies survive and they don't end up shutting down. And
well, and that's an important thing. In fact, last night I was speaking for Austin Forum on information and society, and a similar question to this came up. And just looking at it from the employee aspect, for those people who are either job searching right now or they're worried about what's going on with their company, your leadership teams will be as transparent as they have the ability to be. Yep. There may be things that they legally cannot share with you, right. But if they're being as transparent with you as they have the ability to be, you've got to have some understanding and some kindness for it. And for the leaders right. out there, if you're not being transparent, like being transparent with your employees is going to go a lot further than saying, no, everything's fine. Just keep showing up, just right. keep doing what you're doing every day. Yep. Letting people know, preparing them for here's what we might need to do if we get to these points is going to make them feel a lot more secure. I went through that post 9/11. I worked for a European tour operator. They didn't tell us anything, and there were a lot of sleepless nights. I probably dropped 15 to 20 pounds just from the stress and anxiety of not knowing what was going to happen, because I had bought a house 6 months before that happened. So if you have the ability to provide your employees with information, do that. If you are wondering what's going on with your company, reach out to your direct leader within the company and just try to have conversations, but realize that sometimes there's going to be things that legally they cannot answer, right. Because that could jeopardize the company and what they're trying to do to protect what you're doing. We've got a question here. One of our members, Bill, is on here. He wants to thank you for the uplifting theme, which we do as well. Wondering how do people get set up with a one-on-one session?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. So you just go to www.intry.careers, and you go to the FAQ tab and you scroll down to the bottom, and there's two options. One, you hit on the Calendly link and you can set up 15-minute increments. And then you can also go to the webinars, which Tegan mentioned earlier. So we do those Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 and 6 Central Time, and then 9 a.m. Central Time on Saturdays. And it's just the little things that we can do to try to pay it forward. I mean, anybody who is on this call, whether you're an employer or you're an employee, it's, we got where we got because someone opened a door for us, someone listened. And I think it's the least we can do to try to pay it forward, and listening to people's comments on LinkedIn and it's, I felt like we were doing our best to help people, but honestly, the way that people are sharing their stories with us has probably done more for us than it has for them.
So, and then we've got one last question on here. In between the job state, is it better to show side and independent part-time work or show no employer when you're in a job search right now?
Okay, so just repeat it one more time. I just want to make sure I'm understanding it.
Look, let me read it. In the between job state. So you were laid off. You're
Yep.
looking for your next role. Is it better to show side part-time work or independent part-time work on your resume, or show no employer?
List the independent work.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I would recommend that too.
And I would say that if there has been a point where you've been laid off, one of the ways that we have found works best is to just say you took a sabbatical.
So I want to bring something up because, Jennifer, I know you were running a company during 9/11. And while this is completely different than what we were dealing with then, you still led a company through that. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience with that and how long it took you to get that company through that space?
Yeah. So that's a blast from the past, so to speak. Oh, it was a bad pun. I'm sorry. It was a company that was based out of Hong Kong, and we had 10,000 employees, and we were the first acquisition for Carlyle Group. And it was, for me, that was my first interaction with venture capital. It was a public company that we privatized, which is an experience all by itself. And I think I am taking the same approach now that I took then. And that is, I don't value fear as an emotion. I know I'm going to get some pushback on this, but I think it's a useless emotion because I think it debilitates you. And I was raised by parents who said, embrace your fear. Embrace that thing that is holding you back, and then you conquer it. And that's how I've lived my life, right? I grew up riding horses. If I fell off, I got back on. And I think that's how we embrace what happened after 9/11. And I had a 6-month-old baby. And I remember, sorry, it makes me emotional. But you guys probably remember after that, it was like there was a candlelight vigil, and everybody said, at 6 p.m., go outside and light a candle. And you saw all these people in these neighborhoods uniting in apartment buildings. And it was pre-Twitter and pre-Instagram. And it was a defining moment of unity. It's like what's happening in New York, where I think at 6 o'clock, people open their windows and they cheer the EMS workers and the hospital workers. And it brought together a sense of unity. And so I had... I worked with Walmart at that time. It was a CPG manufacturing business, and we had just launched pre-lit Christmas trees. That was our disruptive innovation. And before that, people had artificial Christmas trees, but you had to put them on branch by branch, and it was incredibly painful. And then we were like, what if we put lights on them? That'd be kind of cool. And we did. And all of a sudden, the market went like, oh my God, this is amazing. Who knew? And you didn't know you needed a pre-lit Christmas tree until you saw it, right? And so I remember going to this Walmart line review, and Amber knows me and my team knows me, but I'm kind of a petite person. And so I was the only vendor that showed up. I was on the first flight out of Minneapolis after 9/11. And, my family, with the exception of my husband, were like, what are you doing? You have a baby. What if it happens again? And I was like, trust me, this is not going to happen again. Like, And so there was maybe 3 of us on the plane, and I got down to the Walmart line review. I was the only vendor that showed up. And those of you who have worked in retail, when you do a 24 set reset and you've got pallets of product and you have to unpack it. So when you go into Walmart and you see all these categories, it's generally the vendors setting up the categories, saying, okay, here's what's going to be this, and this is what we think the matrix needs to look like. And I was the only vendor that showed up. And my senior buyer was like, "So how you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going to be okay, but you better show up for some cocktails about 4 o'clock because that's the only way this is going to get done." And it was a defining moment for me as a leader, and for my company and for my family. And I think, we have to go forward. Looking back is the worst thing that we can do. What can we do today as leaders, as people who are looking for jobs? What can you do today to empower yourself? Reach out to people, ask for mentorships, ask for informational interviews, and bad things are going to happen. I don't think this is the last time that something like this is going to happen. I'm sorry to say it, but I don't think it is. But I think what we can do is learn from the lessons from today, and people who are sheltering in place, people who are sharing their food, people who are getting groceries for people who can't do it, people who are putting funny things on TikTok, which I just discovered, by the way, and I'm going to have to stop for a while because I'm out of control. Not posting them, just watching them. It's out of control. But I think the how do we move forward, and how do we show our own humanities at this time is going to lift everything up. And I'm a firm believer of what you put out is what you get back. And I think if we start every day saying the things that we're grateful for and thinking about what our intentions are, we're going to get that back in spades. Maybe I'm too much of a see the glass half full, but I mean, when I look at Aquiles and I look at Tegan and I look at Amber, I mean, I think those are the things that all of us have in common. And I think that's amazing. And I think that Austin as a community is a glass half full community. And I think just kind of our whole country is a glass half full. And I think if we keep that attitude, we're all going to be okay. I truly believe that.
I agree with that sentiment. So I actually, working for a European tour operator after 9/11, I don't think anybody's surprised that in March of that year, they laid off our entire sales team. Nobody was really wanting to go to Europe except for me and my coworkers. So yeah, a lot of us, when we get laid off, it automatically triggers feelings of hopelessness and depression, anxiety, extra amounts of stress. So some of the things that I did when that happened to me, and thankfully I had, friends and family around who had been through this. This was my first job out of college. And I made a list of things that I wanted to do, things that I typically didn't have the ability to do while I was working full time. Mm-hmm. So yes, finding a job is important, but you can't spend 10 to 12 hours a day looking for a job.
No,
it's exhausting. It's exhausting and it's emotionally defeating. Yeah. So come up with a list of things you can do. Now you're stuck at home. So maybe that is starting a new exercise regimen. Peloton's got this great deal right now where 90 days free on their app, and you don't need the bike to do it. Find something to do so that you don't get sunk into that. Create virtual happy hours with friends or coffees with people. There are a lot of people who are home who have a lot of time. I started a couple of weeks ago setting up 8 a.m. coffees on Tuesdays with CEOs who are ATC members. I have yet to have had a CEO say to me, I don't want to do that, or I'm not available for that. Mm-hmm. So reaching out to your network of anything else that you would do while you're job searching, find somebody with a job that you might like to have someday on LinkedIn and see if they have time to set up a Zoom call or a Starleaf call or a FaceTime call or a Google Hangout for 30 minutes, and you're both having coffee and you learn about how they got that job and how they got that career. And so I want to let Jennifer and Aquiles and Tegan maybe give some thoughts on what they would do as well, because we've all been through this. And if you weren't through this before and you're through it now, if we can help give some ideas on
I love that
Mhm.
because Achilles has a beautiful story of I mean, I'll let him tell it, but super accomplished. I mean, just brilliant quant, but, when, things changed in 2008, his world was turned upside down. And I think his story of how you went from, thinking, oh my God, my world is imploding to where you are is pretty inspirational. So why don't you share that? And then I want to make sure that Tegan can share some of his experiences.
Yeah, yeah. In 2008, I used to work in a hedge fund, and I'm a quant in the hedge fund. And in 2008, the whole fund went into very bad time, right? I mean, like losing like lots of money. And in 2009, things were bad, and I decided, what? I think I have to reinvent myself here because I don't think we're gonna last too much in here. So I moved from one hedge fund to too much in there because the market conditions weren't there. So, I moved to Florida to kind of like, okay, let's regroup and let's try to figure out what to do. But in my mind, what it was all the time is that, I need to reinvent myself. I need to find a way that all the experience that I have done in all these years, doing programming in a hedge fund, convert into something that, can be applied to any place, right? So in 2010, a friend of mine asked me to come here to Austin and help him out, growing a company. And I said, you know what? It's a different vertical for me. I never done anything outside hedge fund. I spend, like I said, a quarter of my life, in the, 25% of my life in the hedge fund. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. So let's change. Let's become into more, executive, job, and let's try to build, companies, and let's try to, make them, succeed and get, bigger. And I did, and it was very rewarding, it was really nice. I love Austin. I don't think I'm gonna get out of Austin ever, never, ever, because I really like it here. I like New York. Don't get me wrong, right? Um, but here in Austin, I have found, a nice place. I have found, myself in a different, in a different life, in a different, meaning for my life, in a different, reinvented myself, into something else that I wasn't before. And it has been great, great. I mean, it was a nice experience. Yes, of course. During that time, I felt, and negative. I felt, like, I was worth nothing. I mean, I went through all those phases, right? But one thing clear in my mind, it's like, I have done too many things. I just have to find where to apply those things that I know that I have known, and how make life better for everybody, and for myself, right? And just don't lose the who you are, right? I mean, what you have done. Don't lose those things because you have done it. You did accomplish that,
Yeah,
and
no one can
focus on
take that
those.
away.
Exactly. Focus on those because you really did something. The market didn't help you out, but that's another. Goes outside yourself, right?
Right.
So focus, in what you have done and what you have accomplished, and always deliver, articulate that part of you all the time, right? So again, be positive and stay, believe in yourself, you know, believe in yourself. Take the opportunity
Okay.
to,
Oops,
yeah.
sorry.
Sorry, no,
Take
it's okay.
because I'm just looking at the time. I
Right.
want to make sure you can.
Tegan.
Yeah. Yeah. So fortunately, I was fortunate enough to be in college during the '08 economic crisis. But it was discouraging for sure. But hopefully because I was in college, I can maybe provide a different perception. I think, kind of going back to that question that we had earlier about, whether it's a week of unemployment or 6 months of unemployment or a year of unemployment, should I try to stay busy, and should I try to do independent work? And I myself have gone through that experience, which is probably the closest I can compare to. leaving a corporate job for what I thought was a really, really good opportunity, and ended up being a terrible opportunity where I was lied to and taken full advantage of, and very underpaid and very overworked, and then laid off in a very short amount of time. And that forced me to decide to go independent, because I didn't want to be held vulnerable for a corporation. Not to say that all of them are evil or anything, but immediately I spent a couple weeks, applying for jobs and thinking, okay, I'm fine. And then I just realized, you know what, I think it's an Albert Einstein quote: in times of difficulty lies opportunity, right? So I took as much advantage as possible to stay as busy as possible. And what started as a couple side projects as favors for friends ended up becoming, a full-time career, a full-time job. So again, it's not near as comparable as to these other stories you're hearing, but hopefully this kind of provides a different perspective to a very similar situation that others might experience.
Thank you.
Jennifer, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think I've kind of said everything that I feel like we need to say. I still believe we're all going to be okay. I think each of us individually is going to be okay. I think that, if Intry can help any of you, of course, we would love it. We'd love the community support. We'd love you to spread the word about who it is, who we are, and what we're doing. And, but I think, we didn't sign up for this to make it to be an infomercial, right? But if you guys can and shine a light on it, that would be great. But I think for just all of you who took the time to sign up and listen and be part of this, we're really appreciative and really humbled. And chin up. This is just the chapter. It's not the book. It's going to be an interesting chapter, but it's not the book.
No, it's definitely not. So thank you, Jennifer and Tegan and Aquiles, for being part of this today and for being our host and helping us with a really uplifting aspect. I think we're hearing a lot of really bad news cycles and articles and everything else. There are several ATC member companies who are hiring. So make sure you're checking out the job board. They are listing jobs there. There is an article that went out, and we will include the link to that article, along with the link on how to get directly with Intry on the email follow-up after this, to show you companies in Austin who are hiring that you can start doing some outreach to. And if there's any way that ATC can help support you all, either through, saying, hey, we know this company is hiring, or if you're a company who's looking at how do I go about handling furloughs and layoffs and making sure my employees are protected and taken care of, and that they can get the assistance that they need. We do have connections through Workforce Solutions Capital Area that we're happy to connect you with. Please email us at info@austintechnologycouncil.org. Again, that's info@austintechnologycouncil.org. We're the only people that see those emails. So even if you send us something confidential, or if you would like to send something confidential to myself or one of the other staff members, you can go ahead and email that email address and we will contact you directly. So thank you all so much again. We so appreciate Intry. We appreciate all of our members, and a special shout out to Starleaf for providing us this avenue to host these. And our next one is going to be tomorrow with Insperity. It's going to be at 11:30. We hope to see you there. We hope to see you part of it. It's talking about leading through times of crisis and major changes for companies and how to get through that aspect. So we're looking forward to that tomorrow at 11:30. And then we will see Intry again as well next Wednesday at 11:30. And we hope to see all of you as well too. Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day and stay safe and wash your hands.
Indeed. Talk to you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.